Hello everyone, my name is Saint Jimmy. So, Disney is now getting involved in Doctor Who, and we all know what that means. There is going to be a Doctor Who expanded universe. Some people are upset about this, I'm personally not, only because it kind of seems like that Russell T wanted to do an expanded universe anyway. So it's not like Disney came in and tampered with what Russell T wanted to do. In fact, it seems more likely that Disney got involved because Russell T wanted to do an expanded universe. Either way, in the next few years, no matter what, we will be seeing a number of spin-off shows. And I have some suggestions on what those should be, which are objectively correct. And just because I said that, my first pick is number 5, The Timeless Child. Specifically, I want to see a series following the fugitive Doctor. Look, no matter what you think of the Timeless Child plot twist, I personally am not really bothered by it either way. We can hopefully all agree that it wasn't explored as well as it should have been. There are many story ideas that arise out of the Timeless Child twist and the era of time before the first Doctor, but how much of that did we really see? Well, in Flux, we did see some villains from the era before the first Doctor, and we also met Un, although she kind of just died as soon as we met her. Other than that, we've basically seen nothing, certainly not since then. My personal pitch for this series would star Joe Martin as the fugitive Doctor. We would explore the organization of the Division, which you probably don't remember, or there's a good chance you don't. It did come up in Flux and the Timeless Children, but the fact that you don't remember them probably indicates how well they were explored. Anyway, desperate to find information on her past, the Doctor will work with and then eventually against the Division, which is led by the Doctor's adoptive mother of Un. The Doctor will find revelations on her origins which will shake her life and, much to the anger of some fans, the entire Doctor Who universe forever. And hey, just for the laugh, let's get Chibnall back to write it. I thought that maybe he could do serial TV shows better than he could do episodic TV shows, which is why series 11 and 12 weren't the best, but then Flux came out, and that still wasn't the best. So at this point, I really don't know. I have seen other shows that he has made, namely Broadchurch, and they are pretty good, and that's a serial show. So I just don't know what's going on with this guy. Maybe he does have it in him to write a good Doctor Who story, so yeah, but I wouldn't bet on it. The reason why this is the lowest one on the list is, well, I can't say I'm really excited for it right off the bat. I don't see any reason why it can't be a good show, but I see no reason to actually want to see it. That said, it would put the Doctor Who fanbase in a state of eternal civil war, and I really want that to happen. That's a very noble goal, so therefore it should definitely get made. Number 4 is the first Doctor on Gallifrey. Basically, this would be the story of why the Doctor left Gallifrey before the show even began. There are a few things that we know about this era, mainly what the Doctor has said, but listen, we all know how the Doctor is. He often doesn't say the whole truth, or sometimes just straight up lies. So yeah, this is worth exploring. And there are a lot of things from this era that we simply don't know at all. First of all, the Doctor has children that we've just never seen or heard basically anything about. The Doctor does have parents as well, obviously, but because of the Timeless Child, that makes it difficult for us to see them, at least biological parents. Maybe the Doctor has an adoptive family at this point, but who knows? Maybe the Doctor even has a spouse at this point. The overriding point is that there's just so much about the Doctor that we don't know, and we haven't really seen any of his family aside from Susan and of course the Doctor themselves. So there's a lot to explore here. We also don't know why the Doctor left Gallifrey. He's mentioned not being happy with the Time Lords, he's mentioned just being straight up bored, and he's mentioned being afraid of the Time Vortex. Which of these, if any, are true? I think I'd prefer that first interpretation, though. The Time Lords and Gallifreyan society is something that I've always found really fascinating, and it's an area of Doctor Who lore that really hasn't been explored as well as it should have been, at least not in the show. They are the most successful civilization in all of time and space because they have mastery over all of time and space. That's awesome. But when people have the power of a god, well, shit can go down, and I would really like to see that explored. My pitch for this series follows a younger First Doctor, at first totally in line with what is expected of a high-ranking Time Lord. But the Doctor then discovers something which shakes his faith in the Time Lords forever, which creates a political and family drama as the Doctor gradually finds out more and more, eventually culminating in the Doctor leaving Gallifrey forever and the show Doctor Who beginning. And that mystery would be the Timeless Child. I'm just kidding, that wouldn't work at all. What I actually would want it to be would be something to do with the Weeping Angels. It's been implied that the Weeping Angels have something to do with the Time Lords in their origin, but we really don't know what it is, and it'd be really cool to find out more. My number 3 pick is the Time War. This is probably the biggest event in all of Doctor Who canon, and we really haven't seen that much of it, only the very beginning and very end. But what we have seen does look really damn cool, not only in the episodes about it, I mean, Day of the Doctor is one of my favorite episodes of all time, but also in the parts of the Time War that we've only heard mere mentions of. Throughout the modern incarnation of the show, we have heard mere whisperings of things like the Nightmare Child, the Gates of Elysium, and the Army of Meanwhiles and Never-Weres. It's so obvious that there are mountains of unexplored lore from this era of the show, and I'm so confused as to why no Doctor Who writer has bothered to explore it. And I know it's not actually that big a deal, but those names elicit a kind of dark curiosity in me, and it makes me so excited to learn more. My pitch for this series would star the War Doctor, beginning immediately after the events of Night of the Doctor. The Doctor would then join the Time War in its final days, assisting the Time Lords against the Daleks. However, as time would go on, the Doctor's faith in his own people would begin to get challenged as both species would begin to use more and more questionable and extreme methods of warfare. The Doctor would encounter the absurd monstrosities created by the Daleks, such as the Nightmare Child or the Skaro degradations, and he would also begin to encounter the more morally grey or eventually just reprehensible elements of the Time Lord, such as Rassilon or maybe even Derek Jacobi's Master. This would all culminate and end just before the events of Day of the Doctor, where the Doctor decides that the only way that this war can end is if there are no Time Lord or Daleks left to fight it. The only issues that I would have with this is, well, first of all, John Hurt, who plays the War Doctor, has unfortunately passed away, so we'd have to cast a new actor in the role, and there's always the chance that that doesn't go particularly well. And also, I think more significantly, we basically already know how the Time War plays out. We know how it ends, and we know all the general story beats of what's going to happen. That doesn't mean it's not a story worth telling. You can definitely do good prequel stories or good stories which fill in the gaps and show us more interesting things about what happened, but I don't know, I guess this feels more like filling in smaller gaps of what we already know than it does exploring something new, if that makes sense. Number 2, The Unearthly Child. Basically, you know Susan, the first companion and the Doctor's granddaughter? What's she been up to? In the Dalek invasion of Earth, which is a First Doctor story, the Doctor actually leaves Susan on Earth to live out her life with a character called David and marry him. The Doctor does say that he will be back for Susan at some point, but That was 58 years ago. Since then, she has been back for a few cameo appearances, but I don't think any of it, from what I understand, counts as the Doctor coming back for her. And since this has happened, Doctor Who fans have wondered where Susan is or when she might come back. But of course she never has. At this point, Doctor Who fans are expecting that she'll get some kind of crazy plot twist reveal similar to how the Master got revealed in Utopia. Now there's a lot of really interesting ideas that arise out of this one. First of all, Carol Ann Ford, who's the actor who actually played Susan 58 years ago, she's still alive. Now, she is 83, so maybe having her as a lead for a TV show is not the best idea. And hell, maybe she's too old or just doesn't want to do it. But let's say she does want to do it. Here's my pitch. The first episode shows us elderly David and Susan being played by Carol Ann Ford, living out a relatively normal life in the 24th century. Whatever that is. Susan is happy with her life ultimately. She does wonder why the Doctor never came back for her, and we do see that. She is a bit sad about it, but she has her family, and that's all she feels like she needs, so it doesn't bother her too much. That is until David unexpectedly passes away, probably just from old age. At this point, Susan no longer feels like she has a reason to stay where she is. She decides, hey, if the Doctor's not going to go looking for me, I'm going to go looking for them. So she regenerates. She somehow finds time travel, and she leaves Earth. The rest of the series is of her trying to find the Doctor. I think the thing that excites me so much about this idea is that Susan could literally encounter anyone from Doctor Who history, or any incarnation of anyone. She could meet any Doctor Who companion. She could meet any incarnation of the Master. She could even meet another Time Lord like Rani or Romana, or maybe even someone from her family. And when she finally does meet the Doctor, it could be anyone. And that is so cool. She could literally rock up, and for all we know, she sees the first girl Doctor from the Timeless Children episode. The possibilities for what Susan could encounter on her journey are literally endless. And I think that gives this series so much potential. And finally, the scene where Susan encounters the Doctor, for her for the first time in 58 years, for the Doctor for the first time in many thousands. That scene has the potential to be something truly special. Number 1 is the 8th Doctor. Yeah, I know this is the one that everyone jumps to when they're talking about spin-offs of the show, but Paul McGann absolutely does deserve his own series. Hell, I would be okay with a whole series of the mainline show, except with Paul McGann as the Doctor. I have no idea how they would do that, but I still think they should. If not that, Paul McGann should get his own spin-off show. For my other picks on this list, I've sort of said that they should be serial miniseries, but this is different. I essentially just want Paul McGann to have a normal-ass series of Doctor Who. That being, he has his companions, he has his overarching series arc, but every episode is mostly self-contained. If you don't know about this though, basically Paul McGann starred as the 8th incarnation of the Doctor in a TV movie in the 90s. And it wasn't a good movie. As a result, people dismissed him as a worthwhile incarnation of the Doctor for a very good while. But in 2013, a short called Night of the Doctor was made in promotion for the 50th anniversary special Day of the Doctor. This short showed Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor, in his final moments before he regenerated into the War Doctor. And oh my god, Paul McGann absolutely proved himself as a worthwhile incarnation of the character here, and instantly fans, including myself, clamored for more from this guy. I was also so happy to see this guy in Power of the Doctor. He's still so good and still absolutely deserves his own series. Since I kind of just envisioned this to be a regular series of Doctor Who, I don't have a pitch as such like I did with the other ones. But I do have a guess as to what the series arc of this show probably would be. I would expect the series arc to somehow revolve around the Time War, as it's really kicking into gear at this point in the Doctor's life. But the Doctor really doesn't want to get involved with it all. He just doesn't like war. But because it's all-encompassing, because it's literally piercing into every single point of the universe, he just keeps getting pulled into it. And this leads up to the very end of this series, where the Doctor is left in an emotional state, perhaps from, for example, a companion death, which primes him for the events that we see in Night of the Doctor, where he decides to finally fight in the Time War and regenerate into the War Doctor. You could probably do some kind of miniseries of Paul McGann as well, and given that it's a spin-off, that might actually make more sense, but I won't pitch for it because ultimately I do actually prefer the pitch that I gave, and yeah, I just really want this guy to have a normal series of the show. So yeah, that's this video done. Thank you for watching if you did watch this far. It's getting dark here, so thank God I'm finishing now. So the picture quality might have dropped a little bit as the video went on. Not that it's particularly amazing in the first place. I'm not using the greatest webcam in the world. And I think I'm going to stick to the scripted content, or at least doing a lot of the scripted content, but I'm not entirely sure what kind of content I want to make. I had the idea to maybe do deep dives into Doctor Who lore or individual parts of Doctor Who lore. Maybe that's a good idea, but we'll see. So yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I would really appreciate it. And yes, thank you for watching again, and goodbye. Okay, so I look down a lot in this video, and I promise I'm not looking at a script. I'm just looking down for literally no reason.